You ready now, Cap?
Yeah.
All right. We're back with another edition of The Other Side of Fishing with Captain Marty, all brought to you by Red Drum Tackle in Buxton. Cap Marty, how are you today?
I'm doing good, Justin. A lot of stuff happening on the Outer Banks this time of year. Like for me, I'm totally into getting ready with the garden, turning the soil, preparing, picking up all the stuff that's blown all over. But that's for me.
Okay.
But for the fishermen around here, things have really started popping early and popping well. We've got some major breaking news, some pretty much once in a lifetime fishing.
Okay.
I've never heard of it. And I'll tell you more about that one in a minute.
Okay, well, yeah. Hey, look, we're all brought to you by Red Drum Tackle in Buxton, the closest tackle shop to the point. Miss Kara down there does a fantastic job with what she has going on inside that tackle shop. You know Miss Kara, don't you, Cap?
I do. And the point, we forget that not everybody listening here is local and knows where the point is.
Yeah,
we have a lot of people all over the country listening. So the point that you're referring to is Cape Point. That's literally the tip of Cape Hatteras, one of the most historic pieces of shoreline in the whole United States and home of some of the most world-class fishing. And Kara and the group at Red Drum Tackle, they're right there in Buxton, just a short, like a block from their tackle shop down there to the area that leads to the point. So it's a big place, and it's getting ready to get really big here in the next couple weeks.
Yes, absolutely. And of course, all brought to you by Red Drum Tackle. We're very thankful for them to be proud supporters of the Captain. But, in order they brought it to us. Now we got to power this engine. And of course, it's all powered by Radcliffe Marine in Belhaven. And Radcliffe, the largest repower center in all of Northeast North Carolina.
And the best person to go to lunch with as well.
Mr. Ricky Radcliffe.
If you stop by Radcliffe Marine, just tell him you want to go where he takes Captain Marty.
Yeah.
Which was Fish Hooks, right?
Fish Hooks right there in downtown.
They should be sponsoring us.
Dude, we need to go in there. I'll work on that for you.
Okay.
Definitely work on that. The preferred lunch spot in Belhaven of the Captain.
I like their small buffet, but really good.
Dude.
Rotated, a lot of different stuff.
Yes.
Right down the street. There are bigger, fancier places. I like the small, intimate stuff myself.
Amen. Fantastic place that Fish Hooks is, as is Radcliffe Marine. You can get you a new engine if you need one. You can get yours rebuilt, repowered, refueled, ready to go. Fixed, all that fun stuff, and we appreciate Mr. Ricky Radcliffe and his crew over at Radcliffe Marine for supporting the Captain. And we also have another powered up sponsor ready to rock and roll. And that's Wanchese Marina. Yes, right down there, 4457 Mill Landing Road, Wanchese. They are the working fleet. They are the fleet that gets down and gets dirty with it on a regular basis. They're ready to put you on a boat, whether it be inshore, near shore, offshore. They're ready to take you fishing. And, of course, they've got the landing grill there as well. Cap, have you been to the landing grill before?
Of course I have.
Okay.
Yeah, I have. I'm trying to think what it was I got that was so good down there. Oh, it was fish tacos, and they were delicious.
The fish tacos at the Landing Grill, endorsed by the Captain. You heard it right here.
And, they make the shrimp salad. That's really, really good when the shrimp are running.
Oh, yeah.
And they're the only marina in our area that has ice skating occasionally.
Yeah, that's true. Now, then one thing that Wanchese Marina has done very well since really the pandemic, they have brought some new creative things for people to do down there.
That.
The big Halloween party that they do right there, the weekend of or before Halloween is one of them. They also did the Winter Wonderland type thing with the ice skating rink out there at Wanchese Marina as well. It's a lot of fun. A lot of great things go on down there. People don't tend to think about, but it's there. And they're huge fans of the Captain. We might try to get Brenda on the phone in a little bit, see what she's up to and see what's going on down that direction. We're going to make some phone calls today, but Cap, it's April. We've made it to the month of April, and lots of things have gone on in the fishing world over the last month. Shine a little bit of light on some of that for us.
Well, I was teasing this at the beginning a little bit, but we've had a fishery that happened over this week. I've never known it to happen here and hardly anywhere, but, all since back around Christmas, we've been talking about the bluefin tuna fishing.
Yes.
We started out by talking about how they were catching them down off Wrightsville Beach in Morehead City and up off Rudy Inlet. If you listen to our daily fishing reports, you'd be aware of that. Then we talked about how big they got and how plentiful they were straight off of Oregon Inlet with fish up to 900 pounds. Actually, one of them bumped 1,000 pounds.
Ooh.
But plenty of them, 500 to 700 pounds. And then a lot of the schooling size bluefin tuna, which were 100 to 200 pounds. Okay, so that was all good news. They stayed. Usually they come and go. We have people come from all over the world to get on those boats and go out there and fish for them. Sometimes with some incredibly high-tech light tackle, catch a 500-pound fish. Well, then from there, everybody says, well, the season actually closed mostly, but you can still catch and release, which is what 99% of that fishery is anyway. But then guys were heading offshore and started running into them 10 miles off the beach, 5 miles off the beach. And then about 3 weeks ago or so, they caught a few right at the sea buoy at Oregon Inlet. And those were in there eating something. I'm not sure what.
Huh.
So that was breaking news. Then on Monday, this past Monday, they showed up off Jeanette's Pier. Now, this was chaotic is what I understand, but some guys out on the end of the pier said, oh my gosh, what is that out there breaking water? And it was bluefin. It was I think it was the 100 to 200 pound bluefin tuna, but who on the end of the pier has tackle for that? So all the tackle shops were avalanched with people saying, you got anything I can throw off the end of the pier heavy enough, buying rods and reels? I mean, anything they could do.
Oh my gosh.
They went out there, and now unofficially, a bunch of people hooked up with them. Phone calls went out, and anyone that had a boat that could get out of Oregon Inlet got up there, and they did catch some to release and some to keep if they were properly licensed, and like within 100 yards of the end of the pier. Big offshore tuna. But they also hooked a whole bunch of them off the pier, and that destroyed a whole lot of tackle. But that is an incredible, incredible piece of fishing news that we could have an acre of bluefin tuna within reach of the end of one of our local fishing piers.
That is great. Now, would you, would you say that this is probably one of the better bluefin seasons?
Oh, it's 10 times better than the best I've ever known. I don't know why. This is a pelagic fishery, migratory fishery. Those things change all the time, as you know. But for some reason, something here is holding them, and it's got to be what they're eating, the bait. Those 1,500 pounders and up to 1,000, they like big bluefish. They eat them like gumdrops whole.
Jeez.
But these smaller fish are probably looking for ribbon fish. Menhaden is really one of the things they go after. But they are nothing but eating machines. That's all they do. And I often think about it this way, Justin. If you could just close your eyes and take all the water away and just see the fish without the water, like it would be a carpet of fish from here to the canyons of the Gulf Stream 35 miles offshore.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Wow, that's crazy to think about for
sure.
Yeah,
it is. If you ever, I do that same thing when I'm deer hunting. I think, wow, I wish I could have some way of mentally knowing where the deer are in the woods. If you could just actually see that, it would be, of course, you can't.
No, yeah.
That's why they call it hunting and not shooting.
Right.
As a fisherman, I always want to know, I saw that big one. I saw 100 big ones, but what if there's 10,000 big ones down there under the boat?
That's why they call it fishing and not catching.
That's right. Good point.
So that's been crazy here lately. So you're saying the bluefin tuna fishing here lately over this entire season has been much better. I remember early on when you first started talking about bluefin in your fishing reports, for a while there, it seemed like they were north of us and south of us. They hadn't quite gotten here yet. Now that they're here, it seems like they don't want to leave.
No, they don't. But there is an interesting legal, and I usually never talk legalities.
Right.
But all tuna require a license or permit to fish for them. Most of that is covered by a charter boat, has a blanket license that covers all the charters. But if you go out there on your own boat, somebody on that boat has to have not only a fishing license, but they have to have the tuna permit. Okay, so that's part of it. And bluefin tuna are the most regulated tuna in the world, and they are regulated all around the world. But that one is, you have to have that permit as well. And you know what? I'm not really sure how that works on the end of a pier because it's hardly never happened.
Right.
But I would say if you're out on the pier and you do not have in your pocket that tuna permit, you're probably illegal.
probably a safe guess.
Yeah, but you could still you could, and then the other rule right now, the schooling season, I think is still open. That means basically anything over 73 inches, which just say that's 200 to 1,000 pounds, you have to let them all go. During one point of the year, you could keep one,
right?
But that's closed. The other ones, I think you can still keep one per day. So with that tuna permit, I think you could keep one, but that's one per boat per day. So how do you do that on the pier? I would look into that if that's gonna become a thing.
Yeah. I mean,
that's federal fisheries.
I'm trying to think about other, typical offshore fish that have been caught that close to the beach. And I remember a gentleman, you may remember, I believe he was one on the board of directors for the fishing center for a period of time, also had a boat. I don't remember his boat's name, but his name was Billy Brown.
Oh, yeah.
Taught at Manteo Middle School.
The Irma Queen.
Okay. Billy Brown said he had seen a few times sailfish caught off the beach.
Right.
Okay, and I know of one person who's actually caught a sailfish off the beach when he was a young boy. I believe his name is Gary Oliver.
Oh, yeah, that's a very true story.
Yes. But have you ever heard of any other?
Yeah, there's one other interesting thing. And before we leave the tuna, I will say that through the years when I was a captain, we would run into the smaller ones on Wimble Shoals, which is 15, 20 miles down the beach.
Yeah.
So that's the difference. The bluefin will come in the colder, greener water in the blink of an eye. The yellowfins and blackfins and big eyes, I won't say they never leave the warm water, but they much prefer it. So also, this week we had two, not one, well, in the last 10 days, we've had not one, but two great white sharks tangled with. Remember the one that they caught off the beach in Buxton?
Yes.
And then I saw pictures of some guys fighting another one down off Hatteras in a center console boat. And that thing jumped right across the bow of their boat.
So
that was a great white shark. Now we know they swim by us. Nowadays they all have this tracking things on them. And
Shark Tracker. I have it on my phone. There's an app for it.
Yeah, and it was back when I was doing radio. They had the Shark Tracker took a shark from Virginia Beach, went across land, went through Lake Mattamuskeet. Then went out the other. We're like, that thing went right by my house somehow.
Yeah, it somehow swam by Marty's house.
And somehow it crossed 100 miles of land, too.
Yeah.
So I'm a little bit suspect of the tracking, but we do know that there are I never saw a great white in my career, but wondering about that, I asked Captain Dickie Harris on the Fantastic, and he said in his lifetime, and he's still doing it. So he's been fishing over 50 years charter. He'd never seen but three in his whole life. So very rare, and two have been seen on the Outer Banks just recently.
Yeah, that's, it's not I don't want people to thinking like, okay, that's a bad omen. Oh, it's going to be that kind of year. It's not, okay? They're out there. The likelihood that they're going to mess with you is very, 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 very low.
Yeah.
Okay. To just kind of give you a better idea, you're more likely to be struck by lightning twice, not just once, but twice. Okay. Because some people are like, they got that phobia. I don't know. Is it sharkophobia or something? I don't know what you call it. It's got to have some fancy name, but the likelihood of something like that happening to you where you end up bitten by one or whatever the case may be, it's very, 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 very low.
Yeah.
So
that reminds me of an old joke.
Oh gosh, tell it to me.
What did the two sharks say when they came up to the beach? What did the two sharks say when they went to the bar in Rodanthe?
Did the two sharks say when they went to the bar in Rodanthe? Mm-hmm. Not Waves, not Salvo. Rodanthe. I don't know. Help me.
They said, give me a couple of White Russians.
Give me a couple of White
That's horrible. You remember that?
I think so.
When they were attacked down there?
Yeah. All right, Cap.
You can back that. You can delete that one if you want.
Ooh, Lord. Well, we're going to take a quick break, maybe make a phone call or two coming up in just a few moments, but we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, more fishing with Captain Marty on the other side of fishing.
Looking for adventure? Head to Pirates Cove Marina in Manteo, where exciting charter fishing meets waterfront vibes. Whether you're a seasoned angler or a first-timer, enjoy offshore, nearshore, and inlet trips with expert crews and quality boats. Need fuel? Pirates Cove offers diesel and non-ethanol gas. Need rods, reels, bait, tackle, and marine supplies? Pirates Cove has that too. Visit their ship store for premium sunglasses, exclusive Pirates Cove gear, and unique gifts. After your trip, relax with snacks, cold drinks, and stunning marina views. Book your charter today at fishpiratescove.com or stop by for a day of adventure, shopping, and relaxation. Catch the big one and make unforgettable memories at Pirates Cove Marina in Manteo.
All right, we're back with Captain Marty's Other Side of Fishing. And Captain, we've who we got on the phone with us right now?
Well, we got one of my neighbors from over in Hyde County, which is Captain Gray Davis. And Gray has Hyde Guides, the charter business over that way. Good morning, or good afternoon, I guess I should say, Gray. How you doing?
Good. How are y'all?
We're good. Now, I didn't know much about you until one of my very best friends, Captain Dickie Harris, runs the Fantastic out of Oregon Inlet, started telling me these stories about going over there with a Hyde County guide to do some trout and drum fishing. And now I've learned a lot about you, but you're over there located in Fairfield, which not everybody knows where that is.
Yeah.
But you're really close to Lake Mattamuskeet, and in your business, Hyde Guides, you can fish just about any which direction you want to go, right?
I tell everybody I'm an hour from everything, unless I'm fishing around home. So it's nice to have, you can do anything from brim to blue marlin where I'm at.
Yeah, brim to blue marlin. I like that.
Yeah, that's really true. Now, I noticed the things we've been talking about mostly, you've been going one way for some striped bass, rock fishing, kind of think the other way for puppy drum. Is that accurate?
Yeah, and we're starting to finally see things kind of pick up over here as far as other species. The drum bite's still pretty good. Starting to see some gray trout and bluefish show up. The rockfish kind of on the way out. We're catching probably 20 to 30 just about every trip, which is good, but it's not the normal numbers you get when they're on their way in. And the wind has killed us really.
Mm-hmm. So when you, a lot of what you're doing now is in the Pamlico Sound and its estuaries, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Well, really primarily in the Pamlico Sound.
Okay. All right. So I'm always watching, I go back and forth from Englehart over to Manteo almost every day. And I always watch Long Shoal and Paynes Bay, and you can always see in Deep Creek, and you always know when the fishing is picking up by the people that are fishing along the bridges or the kayakers. But didn't you tell me the other day that it looks really good for the bait, the jumping mullet in particular? I mean, you were very encouraged by that, right?
Yeah. Well, actually, I went and looked around a little bit the day before the wind decided to turn the afterburners on, but there's a ton of bait. I mean, the one thing I'm not seeing yet, which is like the coup d'etat of bait, is the glass minnows.
Okay.
I have not really seen the glass minnows yet, but the water's 64 degrees in the sound this morning. So, I mean, they've got to be on the way. Usually when you see your first couple big bluefish show up, that's usually your glass minnows aren't very far behind them.
Okay. We've been talking about unusual things like, for instance, the bluefin tuna over this way, but there's a lot of changes going on. Of course, we had the big cold stun event on the trout. I know that season's closed, but you've caught a few speckled trout, right?
Yeah. And that's, I keep telling all my clients that, I don't think we got hit as bad as everybody thinks we did. South of us did not get hit that. I mean, it looked bad, but I don't think it was as bad as everybody made it out to be. Now, up here in the northern part of the Sound and even into the Albemarle, I think they got hit a little bit harder. But like I said, we're seeing some small fish, we're seeing some keeper fish, so there's a light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. So I don't think we'll see as something as devastating as 2019. but definitely be on the lookout to see what kind of trout population we got still.
All right.
So another thing that a lot of people don't realize is the shrimp, and the shrimp will tell you about what the trout population is, because if the shrimp got whacked, then those trout are going to be where those shrimp are.
Okay.
So
we often talk about one of my sponsors, which is Ricky Radcliffe at Radcliffe Marine, who's the best speckled trout fisherman I know. But the type of charter that you offer is in a trailerable center console boat. And somebody asked, that's correct, right?
Correct.
Okay. So somebody asked me the other day, I get this question a lot because we think of all these offshore charters are 6-passenger charters.
Yep.
For you as the captain, what do you recommend is the ideal size group to take on your boat?
So for casting purposes, 3.
3, okay.
That is the ideal. At 2 to 3, 4 can be a little crowded, especially when you're slinging stuff that's got treble hooks on it, or popping corks, for instance. But I tell you, I like to have more rods on the boat, because I personally feel like I'm covering more water.
Okay.
So like if I pull up somewhere and I got 3 guys and I'm casting 2, there's 4 rods in the water, and we're going to cover that area pretty quickly.
Right.
If it's just me and one other guy, I don't really feel confident enough that, I got on a flat and started fishing, and, I may not hit this one spot over here that, possibly could have some fish in it. It's kind of like you got more eggs in the basket, so to speak. So, one guy on the bow hooks up, and then, and then everybody kind of throws up there and everybody else hooks up. And then you're making a memory then. So that's what I'm all about, man. You gotta make the memory.
Well, we appreciate all the help you've been to us all through the spring with some reports and information. If folks want to book you, how do they go about getting up with you that they might be interested coming to Fairfield and going one direction or the other, depending on where the fish are biting?
The best way to get up with me is on either Instagram or Facebook, or by text or phone. I am not good at reading my emails, and I don't really answer a lot of stuff on the website very much. So if you want to get up with me, either text, phone, or contact me at Hyde_guides on Instagram and the Hyde Guides on Facebook.
All right. Well,
very
great.
cool.
Thank you very much. That's a lot of information. Glad you stuck around so we could talk to you while you're out there in God's country over in Hyde County. And thank you very much. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you, Marty.
All right. See you.
Hey, bye. Well, Cap, that was a great phone call that we had there. I mean,
we could. There's a lot of light tackle
Yes.
fishermen that would have preferred we talk to him all the way till we run out of time. Because
Well,
what he's telling you right there is really good information.
seemed to be very valuable. I just from talking about all the different.
We have other fish to fry, no pun intended today, but I really wanted to ask him. Dickie Harris has been with him since the first year, 6, 7 times. Dickie's longtime guide and captain on the Fantastic. But when you've been doing that all your life, I was wondering what kind of a client he makes.
I was kind of wondering the same thing.
Because Dickie would always say, that charter's a know-it-all, or that charter wouldn't listen. I'm like, I wonder what kind of charter client Dickie makes as a customer instead of the captain.
Oh, that's always that's definitely probably an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
That would be a good question to ask. Well, Cap, we're going to take another break. We'll make another phone call or two coming up here in just a few moments. One thing I do want to mention, though, is you're actually fixing to go on a bit of an excursion, and you're going to be making your way down to Hyde. Well, you're going to be making your way to Hyde County.
I'm going from one part of Hyde County to the other.
That's right. Over to Ocracoke. The captain's going to be down there visiting with a few folks, going to be doing some interviews, and they're going to be a part of your show that comes out this on Saturday. So we're going to talk more about that in a little bit, and we're going to make a couple more phone calls. So we'll be back in just a second with the Cap Marty's Other Side of Fishing.
Boasting phenomenal seafood dishes, a great menu, and waterfront views with deck seating, Striper's Bar and Grill at the Shallowbag Bay Marina in Manteo serves a casual, fun-filled dining experience with an Outer Banks flair. With 3 floors to choose from, you're bound to find the perfect seat for you and yours while enjoying great food and fantastic drinks. To see our menu and to catch a glimpse of the beautiful views, go online to stripersbarandgrill.com. Striper's Bar and Grill at the Shallowbag Bay Marina in Manteo, where everyone's a VIP.
Are you ready for a fishing thrill like no other?
Oh, there he is! There he is! Oh, got him up!
As seen on Wicked Tune at Outer Banks, the Carolina Girl, captained by majestic Jesse Anderson, is a custom, luxurious 53-foot Jarrett Bay built boat running out of Hatteras Harbor Marina. Let Jesse and her crew give you a fishing experience of a lifetime. To book a trip, go online to CarolinaGirlSportFishing.com. Carolina Girl Sport Fishing, your offshore adventure awaits.
All right, Marty, we're back with the other side of fishing, and we just talked to Gray Davis from Hide Guides.
We sure did.
And now on the phone, we have Jesse Anderson from Carolina Girl Sport Fishing. She's on her way back from, I think she said, Isla Mirada.
Yes, she is. And, Jesse is my longest running sponsor.
Fun fact.
Been sponsoring me and my radio show and now our podcast and my fishing guide for a very long time. So, hello, Jesse. How you doing?
Great.
I think she's cutting in and out just a little bit, but that's okay. Can you hear us good?
I can hear you. Yes.
Okay. So, Jesse, you're on your way back from Almirada because I know you spent the winter down there rubbing salt in our eyes as you caught snappers and swordfish and stuff like that. Now what's next on your fishing agenda?
Because I'll be back to Hatteras to start, fishing on the Carolina Girl. But at the moment, I'm on my way back because we took a long trip to Pooley Ridge and we have a Florida state record blue line tile fish.
Wait a minute. Wait, say that again. You caught that in Florida?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow. All right.
Yeah.
So when do you start on the Carolina Girl then? When does that pick up?
May 1, we're going to start.
Okay. So Carolina Girl down there in Hatteras Harbor. Jesse's been down there a long time. She keeps hinting around about what her future holds. But for now, you're gonna fish through the summer, aren't you?
Yes, I am. No doubt. We're booked up pretty good. And, we'll be fishing through the summer.
So, Jesse, Justin and I were talking about subject matter for today. One of the things we talked about was how to pick a good day to charter a boat. Like I always recommend to try to avoid the weekends and stuff. But if you got people you really like and know about, what do you recommend when it comes time for them to pick a day to charter the Carolina Girl?
Well, I tell them to give me a call, and typically it's going to be May and early June. Seems to be or all the way through June actually seems to be the best. And I'd say stay away from the weekend.
Yeah,
definitely. You have a much better chance of getting an open spot during the week than you do on the weekends. The weekends fill up really fast. And
one of the point that I used to make years ago is that there's a lot more boats, especially in Hatteras, on the weekends. And that, like the tuna fishery is a surface fishery mostly. And the more boats you have, the more fishing pressure and the more the fish may stay down. So I not only suggested weekdays if you can get them, but also really critical if let's just say you book a Tuesday, leave Wednesday open on your travel plans if there's any possible way. Because so many people put all their apples into one day and get blown out. So would you agree with that too? It's a good idea to have a backup day?
Oh, definitely. And if people will call and they'll say, okay, we either want Tuesday or Thursday. And if I got both days open, I'll tell them to make sure they book Tuesday, because that way if they get blown out, they have Thursday if it's still open when the time comes.
Right. Yeah. And, and you could, I used to tell people you're going to fish on Tuesday, but if we get blown out, maybe you were going to travel back to Ohio on Wednesday, just, go fishing on Wednesday and drive at night and get it back home. But I have watched too many people drive a long way, put a lot of time into planning, and have to turn around and go home. Oh, so an alternative day is one thing. Middle of the week is also better. Anything else? How about your license is firm at 6 people, correct, Jesse?
Yes, we have 6-pack charter. That is right.
You also have a really nice boat. Tell our listeners about your boat.
53 custom Carolina, built by Jarrett Bay in Morehead City.
All right.
And it's got all the good stuff, air conditioning, and we have the big freezer in the back for bait and for your fish, and make sure we keep it fresh for you.
I'm laughing because we didn't have no dang air conditioning when I was starting out. You open the window. Nowadays, they're almost all the boats have air conditioning, have all kinds of bells and whistles.
Standard.
Yeah, pretty standard. But
people do. If we're up on the bridge, we don't have it.
That's true.
No, that's true.
That's a good point. And you're of course at Hatteras Harbor. Are you still over there on the far side?
I am.
Yeah.
The opposite side is the marina.
Okay.
Just 2 or 3 of us over there. That's it.
All right. Well, as we get in the summer, we'll be talking to you a lot, and I do appreciate everything you've done for me personally, and helping us bring the fishing guide to our people at no cost. And then we have this podcast available, and you are on the Carolina Girl. Now, if folks want to get up with you while you're driving up I-95 or whatever, how can people best get in touch with you, Jessie?
757-560-1336, or they can book directly through Hatteras Harbor Marina also.
Okay, and that's an easy way of doing it too. But that's the Carolina Girl. Make sure it's the one with Captain Jesse, because there are a couple others scattered around the Outer Banks, but that's the one you want, the one with Captain Jesse Anderson. All right, Jesse, well, have a safe trip home, and thanks for taking a minute to talk to us.
All right, sounds good. Thank you for calling.
All right, see you.
Hey,
All right,
bye. All right. Hey, she's on her way back with a state record of some sort from down in, what did she say? It was a snapper or something? What did she say? I can't
Tilefish.
Tilefish. That's what it was.
We got time for a story?
I got plenty of time for a story. Cap, tell me one.
About what she's doing today.
Okay.
Great story. She's traveling up I-95 after wintering in the Florida Keys. Well, all back in my early days in career, that's what everybody did. They wintered. They go down there and work on charter boats in Palm Beach, South Florida, or the Keys. I went to the Keys, but one guy that did that was Captain Arch Bracher on the Pelican. Arch is a legend, one of the country's top billfish captains on the Pelican at Oregon Inlet. He had been down there mating for another legend, Captain Chip Schaefer. Captain Chip, Vietnam vet, really great mentor of mine, one of the best fly fishing guides in the world. On his second or third John Bayless boat with his owner, and they do nothing but fly fishing for marlin. Anyway, but Arch was down there fishing on the old Temptress with Chip, an old Sheldon Midget built boat, and fished all summer long, caught groupers and snook, and had all kinds of fish frozen up neatly, put in his freezer, all through the winter. So it came time to come home. He had a big Chevy Suburban on the beach, because if anybody that fishes the beach here knows that Arch and his brother Pat are two of the best drum fishermen ever, anywhere. They charter fish offshore at Oregon Inlet all day long, and then come in and go drum fishing out on the pier at night, all night long, go right back to the boat. So anyway, he was like 20 years old, young mate, is headed north. Chip was going to bring the boat up, and he told Arch, you go ahead and get on up there and get settled in. I'll meet you when we get to North Carolina. So he's coming up there. If you made the trip plenty of times in South Carolina, there's the Santee Cooper Lakes.
Yes.
Where you go across those long bridges. And the bridge used to be pretty rickety. It's all new now, but he was going across that bridge headed north with his truck loaded with cast nets and fish, blocks of frozen fish he packed in coolers to keep it frozen until he got here. And it got in a really bad spring thunder squall.
Oh, Lord.
And on the middle of that bridge, he lost control of his truck. And when he did, that thing started barrel rolling down the bridge. Now, he could have easily gone over the side in that car and gone in the water, but everything he had, his truck was destroyed. Raining and sleeting so hard you couldn't see, and everything he owned all up and down the highway. Well, of course, traffic stopped, and the troopers came, and, traffic was jammed up. So he's sitting there. Luckily, he wasn't seriously injured. He's sitting in the state trooper's car, and a guy comes up. This guy comes up and starts knocking on the window. He says, "Excuse me." He says, "You're going to want that stuff that's out there on the road, all those boxes."
Oh, my gosh.
They're all labeled grouper, snapper. And Arch, he's like, "No." Go ahead. You can have it. So people were on the interstate picking up his fish he was going to bring back here.
My
and eat
goodness.
all that good bottom fish. Well, that ain't. So the cop said, man, I'm really sorry. He realized it was a young kid working hard and just had a serious accident. Art says, what really bothers me, I had 2 custom-built cast nets made there's a guy in South Florida called Frank the Net. And Frank handmade these big cast nets that they used to catch ballyhoo and things for sail fishing. He had 2 of them in 2 5-gallon buckets, 1 in each 5-gallon bucket. When that truck flipped, both of them went over the side. They weren't out on the. And he told the cop, he said, look, the only thing I'm really worried about, my insurance will cover the truck. I really wish I hadn't lost those cast nets because they're custom made. Troopers took his address, already had that, and he said, look, he says, I'll come back in the summertime, and when the water level goes down, I'll look for him. Art's just like, yeah, sure you will.
Right, yeah.
So he came on back, and then in August, he was mating on the Temptress at Oregon Inlet. And one day, Miss Menamekins, who was running the fishing center, she comes over there, and they're with 2 big, heavy boxes, And Arch, at the end of the day's fishing, Arch's like, what are these? And that state trooper had gone back in the summertime in his family boat when the water level got lower and clearer, and he drug a snag hook around, and he snagged both of those cast nets and pulled them up.
Wow.
Took them home, washed them out, got all that mud and silt off of them, and packaged them up real dry and clean in boxes and sent them back to Arch. No shipping. They were heavy because they have lead all the way around.
Right, yeah.
He did that. And now that is what the side of the highway patrol people don't hear.
Yeah.
But it was a great story. And he was doing that same thing that Jesse is doing today on our way home from fishing all winter long down in Florida.
That's pretty rad.
Yeah.
That's a great story. That's really cool. He got his cast nets back.
Got his cast nets
Lost
back.
the fish.
Yeah.
But he got his cast nets back.
Somebody on the bridge,
Man, I like a bandit.
They're all stopped, sitting there, and everything. The car was demolished.
Yeah.
I said, you gonna want this fish?
Well, all right, we'll take another break, Cap. We'll make another phone call or so, and we'll see what's crack-a-lacking. Again, you're going to be making your way down to Ocracoke in the near future, and it's going to be a part of this show. So we're going to save a little space for that as well. But we'll make one more phone call when we come back on Cap Marty's Other Side of Fishing.
Let's be real. No one wants to deal with nasty varmints like mice, roaches, creepy crawlies, and critters. Leave that work to the experts at Outer Banks Pest Control. Outer Banks Pest Control is the best on the beach when it comes to eradicating those unwanted creatures. They've been in business for over 25 years with well over 100 years of combined exterminating experience. Specializing in both commercial and residential properties, Outer Banks Pest Control has all the tools and equipment necessary to take on any pesky job. They pride themselves on top quality customer service and workmanship. Hey, if it ain't red and yellow, it's just some coattail riding fella. Outer Banks Pest Control, the best on the beach with a proven track record of excellence since the year 2000 and online at outerbanks-pestcontrol.com.
Frisco Woods Campground, a family-owned gem for over 50 years, offers a perfect getaway on Hatteras Island. Whether you prefer tent camping, electric water sites, RV spots, or primitive camping cabins, there's something for everyone. Guests enjoy free hot showers, a refreshing pool, and breathtaking sunsets over the Pamlico Sound. Nestled in nature yet close to local attractions, Frisco Woods Campground provides a peaceful retreat with modern comforts, making it an ideal destination for outdoor enthusiasts and families alike. Book online at the Frisco Woods Campground.com. Frisco Woods Campground, 50 years of memory making on Hatteras Island.
All right, we're back with the Other Side of Fishing with Captain Marty. We've made a couple phone calls today, and we're going to make one more. And, well, I guess we've already made it, so I guess I can't say we're going to make it. It has been made. We're talking to Miss Kara down at Red Drum Tackle. Miss Kara, can you hear us okay?
I can hear you loud and clear.
So Kara is she's calling us from she's at sea. What in the world are you doing down there today?
We're test driving our new 28-foot Valentino with a 300 Suzuki on the back. It is
Wait a minute.
driving wonderfully.
I'm confused. You said we are test driving our new Valentino. Like when you go get a new car, do you say, I want to test drive my new car? No. You don't really.
No.
You got to test drive it, and then it becomes your new car. But I think Kara may have already committed on us.
Sounds like it.
I I did. But Captain Bobby Eakes is at the helm, and Captain Ian Mulder's at the helm, so I'm in good hands.
Kara, do you? You reminded me of somebody. Do you know who Junior Johnson was from NASCAR by chance?
No.
Okay, Junior Johnson was old country boy who ran moonshine, went through the ranks of NASCAR, and then had drivers like Darrell Waltrip and Cale Yarborough and others. But he was old country boy. And this made me think of you because he had an old saying he would tell his pit crew because he wasn't satisfied with the work the effort they were putting into it. So he set them all down one day and, he said, boys, he says, y'all need to know the difference between being involved and being committed. And they're like, well, what do you mean, Mr. Johnson? He said, well, when you sit down to breakfast in the morning and you have ham and eggs, the chicken was involved, the pig was committed. And you sound like you bought the ham. That's what you sound like, Kara.
I did buy the ham. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So tell us about that boat.
All right.
I know the boat pretty well. So tell us about it. Pretty boat too.
Beautiful, nice, wide, across the bow and the stern, and where you can get around it easily, and lots of compartments. Offshore on the pretty days, little wet. I'll get some curtains for her, and we'll go from there. But I'm excited to go looking sight casted for drum and cobia, both off the point and out in the sound.
Yeah, that brings back a lot of memories. My first years in Hatteras with Buddy Hooper had a 28-foot crab boat, and on real pretty days we would go out to the Gulf Stream actually. But that's the size boat you could do about anything with. So congratulations on all that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
So now, of course, right there at Cape Point, everything is in transition right now. Give us a little idea what fishing's like on Hatteras Island.
Sure. They're starting to catch nice big drum, lots of little drum here and around. Ocracoke has a really good bite going on, steady as she goes. And then down towards Hatteras, out towards the point, there's been a really good sea mullet bite picking up. We had quite a bit of blow yesterday, but sea mullets on the North Beach that are weighing like 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds. A few blow toads here and around, still speckled trout and puppy drum in the sound. Now, I know that you're not allowed to keep them, but, you're fishing. It's going to happen when you catch them, but you got to release them back.
Yeah, I tell you what I'm hearing sounds really good. And, I'm always thankful for those sea mullet because doggone it, on my fishing boards, if we don't talk about them about 10 months out of the year, it seems like they're the lifeblood of beach fishing, aren't they?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, they're like one of the best eating fish.
That's what I mean. Yeah. And the good thing about sea mullet is that kids love, you don't have to be an advanced level fisherman to go out and catch sea mullet. They're great to eat. Kids love it. I don't see how, and they're consistently there. So kind of a good fish.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Well, I know you're out playing with your new boat. Anything, let's see. And you mentioned there's some drum being caught back in the sound as well. And we know that there's a few the big drum are mostly at Cape Point.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir. In the evenings, but then early evening and then throughout the evening, quite a steady bite of them, and then slot drum. Also bluefish down in Hatteras, they're catching them off the charters that are near shore. And then it's the Taylor blues, the smaller blues that are good eat.
Yeah, one of my favorites, actually. All right, Kara. Well, I know you're playing with your new toy, and we do appreciate you taking a moment to talk to us a little bit. We'll let you get back about your business, and we'll see you in Buxton.
Okay, sounds wonderful. You guys have a good day, tight lines, and fish on, right?
Right, absolutely. Thank you.
See you, Kara.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Bye. Red Drum Tackle. Hey, fantastic folks down there
Now, when do we get to go fishing?
That's what I mean.
On that boat.
Exactly.
Don't we need to go down and do some R&D somehow or another podcast from down there?
We are. We got to try to figure out when, and that's something I do need to talk to Kara about because, being brought to you, bringing us the Captain Marty Other Side of Fishing show, I feel it's only right that we make our way down there and at least spend some time in the tackle shop, set up shop with our equipment and talk with them and hang out and see who comes through the door. You never know who's going to come through the door. That's what's fun, and we can talk to people that are going fishing. Hey, what are you trying to catch today? See if they'd be interested in talking to us.
And, over the years, we've had a lot of tackle shops have sponsored us and we deal with all of the local And this is a good point in today's program to tell people, a lot of people come into town, they hit the big box stores and they look for a discount, but our local tackle shops, you get very competitive pricing, number one.
Right.
Number two, the other reason you need to shop there is the bait. Fresh bait is key. You'll see that I'm writing an article in this year's spring fishing guide all about the importance of bait that's fresh, not frozen, not 24 hours old, but caught that morning. These tackle shops go to a lot of trouble to buy from commercial fishermen and have fresh bait. So that's reason number two. But the biggest reason is the local knowledge. Costs nothing. You're not going to get that at some giant big box store. So like you just heard Kara, you want to find out the right rig and and shop with them. Spend your money there. It'll pay off tenfold to you, I promise.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right about that. Now, going to take one more quick break, Marty. We're going to wrap up this portion of your show, and then we'll reopen in Ocracoke when you make your way down there. But we're going to take another quick break, and then we're going to just start talking, finishing up, just see what's going on forecasting wise, for the month of April and talk about some other stuff. Yeah, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back. Captain Marty's Other Side of Fishing.
When it comes to general maintenance or major modifications on your diesel vehicle, look no further than Wanchi's Off-Road Diesel Performance in Kill Devil Hills. Master mechanic Ryan Walker developed the plan for having his own auto shop over 20 years ago, and today he owns the premium diesel performance powerhouse of the Outer Banks. To have him and his crew take a look under your hood, give him a call today at 252-715-0025 or find him on social media. Wanchi's Off-Road Diesel Performance, the diesel performance powerhouse of the Outer Banks.
Teachers Lair Marina in Hatteras Village is the closest spot on the Outer Banks to the Gulf Stream. Just inside Hatteras Inlet, Teachers Lair is fully loaded with bait, tackle, ice, snacks, and drinks for your fun-filled day out on the water. Want to get rigged up to catch the big one? Lee and the gang in the tackle shop can outfit you to catch whatever is eager to get hooked. To see the marina, the tackle shop, or to book a charter, go online to teacheslair.com. Teachers Lair Marina in Hatteras Village. Your fishing venture awaits.
All right, wrapping this thing up with the captain. And Marty, we're into the month of April. Some of the fishing piers are going to start reopening, like Outer Banks Pier. I mean, Jeanette's Pier's been open. Outer Banks Pier's fixing to reopen. If they're not all, they may have already reopened. I don't know about that. I know that all the piers are fixing to start popping off, though, here very soon. And I was wondering, give me an idea of what you feel like the month of April is going to produce in the world of fishing.
Everything will just come alive. We're ahead of schedule, I think, already.
Okay.
So we've already had big drum, which that's a spring and fall fishery anyway, as far as surf fishing goes. But we got ribbon fish back in the Sound, and that's unusual. We know that those ribbon fish are going to be there. There's a lot of new things happening. And there's a lot of things that have gone by the wayside. Our big bluefish blitzes on the beach are a thing of the past, but we have big bluefish back in the Sound now that we haven't had in years. So that's a good sign. Sheephead fishing.
Okay.
One of the best eaten, hardest fighting fish in the ocean. I'd give it a 10 on the scale of really good fish.
Okay.
Good to eat, hard fighting, challenging to catch, and never seen numbers like we had last couple years on sheephead fishing. Offshore fishing, I assume this bluefin tuna fishing, they got to leave. They don't hang. I say they don't hang around during the summertime, but the way this year's been, it's hard to say. But it is the time of year, though, that you do need to book a boat. If you had even thought about it, don't wait till the last minute to book a boat. And like Jesse and I were talking about earlier in the program, Especially if you need a weekend or something, they go very quickly. And the other thing is to be careful about who you book, and make sure that you're booking with a reputable, experienced charter fisherman. And that's what you really want to do. Whether people don't realize there's a lot of opportunity to go back in the sound fishing or working waterman charters, which I wrote an article about in the fishing guide as well.
Right.
A lot of different ways now that didn't even exist back when I was fishing. It was pretty much inshore, offshore, or nothing. Now you got head boats. That's another great thing, another great way of doing it. Take your kids on a head boat. It's a great way to introduce them to fishing because our head boats are inshore head boats, calm water head boats. And those people, as you know, we went on the Miss Oregon Inlet last year and had great fun doing that. So there's a lot to look forward to.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it looks like it's going to be a fun April, and only time will tell. But at the same time, like you were saying, you feel like everything's a little bit of ahead of schedule, and just the variety of fish that have shown up. I mean, looking like it's going to be a good month, of April. It's a good spring and potentially a good summer.
I want to throw in one more little tidbit. Last year, there were more opportunities for fishing off the bank. Remember all the reports and our fishing reports that we did about the north end of Roanoke Island?
Yes.
Fishing off the beach for speckled trout and backside of Hatteras Island. So if you're listening to us right now and thinking, I haven't really thought much about it, but a light spinning tackle, 7.5 foot with a spinning reel, you can get a good one rigged. A nice one for $100.
Right.
Rod, reel, and everything you need to go with it. And get and get you a fishing license. My point being, you don't have to have a boat. Our helper and partner, Tony Lombardi, does a whole thing called walkingangler.com. You can go to his website and see lots of opportunities for fishing from the bank, the pier, the bridges, things like that. So don't just assume you have to have a guide or B, a boat. You don't have to have either. You can get all the fishing you want with your feet stuck on firm land.
There you go. See, walkingangler.com. Is that right?
That's right.
It was with Tony Lombardi. Excellent stuff. Cap, I'm going to turn you loose, and you're going to walk out of this door, and you're going to be...
the helicopter's waiting on me.
The helicopter, the Captain Marty copter.
Mm-hmm, and I'm flying down to Ocracoke for the remainder of the program.
There you go. So we'll catch you on the other side of Hatteras Inlet.
That's right.
All right, Cap, we'll see you down there.
All right, see you, Justin.
All right, so before I turn you back over to the captain, it should be noted that the recordings that he did while he was in Ocracoke, they sound a little funny. We don't know what happened in the process of Captain Marty leaving the studio, getting on the helicopter, and making his way down to Ocracoke. I don't know if the communication signals and the frequencies that they use in the helicopter caused some sort of disturbance in his audio equipment, but we were able to salvage what we could of the recordings that he did. So without further ado, here's the captain.
All right. As promised, I'm in Ocracoke now as we continue podcast today, and I'm with an old friend who I haven't seen in a lot of years, and it would be in the person of Captain Stevie Wilson. I have not seen you. How long has it been?
I think the last time I saw you was in Marine Fisheries office.
Oh, well, we can forget. I think I kept you and all the rest of the people down here out of trouble.
You kept a close eye on me.
Yeah. I was lucky, Stevie, because I was hired because of my background in fisheries. And that's one thing a lot of the fish houses liked was I had been there and I'd worked in the business. And I wish there was more of that, but we haven't seen each other in a long time, but I keep up with you. And before we go any further, tell us a little bit about charter business here on Ocracoke.
So we run a 40-foot center console, and it is a homemade boat, going along with the tradition of the Outer Banks. A lot of us build our own boats. So she is a custom 40-footer right here on the island. And we do half-day, full-day charters, inshore, nearshore wreck. And we also do our Gulf Stream fishing, a little bit of specialty fishing along with that.
Now, one of the things that's really neat, and Phil was asking me, Phil in the studio here, Phil was asking me earlier, like the average run, I don't think people realize how close you are to the Gulf Stream in Ocracoke. What's your average Gulf Stream run?
We probably start fishing at about 20 to 25 miles in the summer.
That would be like 5 or 6 miles shorter than Hatteras and 10 miles quicker and closer than Oregon Inlet, right?
It's pretty nice.
Yeah. So you can you could never do a half-day offshore trip. You could actually, if you wanted to, get straight to the Gulf Stream on half a day.
You could do it. You just wouldn't have much time.
So, you've been doing this how long now? What's your pedigree?
Since about 1991.
Okay.
So I've been in the charter business for about 35 years now.
We're going to get in a moment to talking to what you do that really amazes me. Most people would never be able to grasp hold of it, but I know you do a lot of different types of fishing. I want to talk about the bluefin tuna a little bit, but it's the sword fishing that you do that I see your catches, and you have a lot of respect by different people that do that, because that's not something I ever have caught and done, and I've fished most of my life. But when you're in your charter season, these bluefin tunas, do you get involved with a little bit of that sometimes?
We do a little bit. Some years I do more than others. A lot of times it just depends on the timing and
the year at Oregon this year blows my mind. Many big ones and how long they stayed.
The first time I bluefin tuna fished Marty was in mid-90s. I was running the Captain B for Burness Mountains. And we were doing a lot of bluefin tuna fishing at the time.
And that had been out of Hatteras, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, a typical day for you is all the tunas, yellowfin, fins. I just had really good lunch, blackfin tuna over at McNally's across the street, blackfin tuna wrap. Mouthful to say, but mouthful to eat too. Really, really good. So how in the world did you get started in this deep dropping for swordfish? First of all, tell us a little bit how you actually do that, and then you can tell us how you came upon that.
Well, it's not a real simple fishery, Marty. It's pretty technical. You're fishing in about 16 to 1,800 feet of water on average, and you're dropping using a braid, 65 to 80 pound braid. The smaller the diameter, the better. And you're fishing about 100 foot above the bottom.
Well, now see that I did not know. I thought you went right straight to the bottom.
No, sir. These fish are swimming around near the bottom, but you want to have your bait somewhere around 80 to 100 feet above the bottom. And sometimes you'll even bring it up a little bit further than that. If you start marking bait, say 500 feet off the bottom, if you see a cloud of squid and some bigger marks around it, then you might need to bring your bait up a little bit further. But we don't fish right on the bottom.
Okay. Now, it's fascinating to hear you talk about it, because a swordfish has big eyeballs anyway, and now that explains why, because sure, down there it's dark down there probably. You're drifting while you're doing this. Is that correct?
We are drifting. You could almost say bump trolling.
Mm-hmm.
So there are several different ways of doing it. What we do is we set our bait, and then we position into the current, and then bump into the current to keep our line vertical.
Okay.
And while we're doing that, we're actually drifting backwards with the current.
Okay.
And usually the best drift is when we're drifting backwards at about 1.5 knots, 1 3/4, still bumping into the current.
So I'm familiar with all the topography down on the bottom. What are you drifting right down the edge of the continental shelf, or you got a canyon, or what are you fishing on?
So we're fishing on these ledges. And right on the back side of the ledge, it drops off to the abyss.
Mm-hmm.
But these ledges are muddy. That's why they refer to swordfish as mud marlins, because they love mud bottom.
Okay.
And you'll see their bellies full of eels and fish and other things that they get rooting around in the mud. And of course, their favorite, squid.
Yeah.
So
now, when you do that, I mean, all the swordfish I ever saw were tailing on top on a summer day northeast Oregon Inlet. Unless you had a harpoon, you didn't stand much chance of. But how in the world did you learn that? It seems like it would be pretty much hit or miss fishing.
Most of the people that I've ever talked to, and my personal experience, is trial and error.
Okay.
You can go with someone and you can get the idea of how to do it. You can have a lot of conversations about how to do it. But it seems ultimately like you have to make lots of mistakes.
Okay.
In fact, you might have to make every one of them.
Okay. So how many baits do you put down at a time? 1, 2, 3?
Most of the time we put down one bait.
Okay.
However, you can put a second line out, which you referred to as your buoy rod.
Okay.
So your main bait will be right off the side of the boat. You'll have a rod that's got a fairly fast action tip. and it'll be straight down. And then, of course, your bait will trail off 100 foot from your weight.
And it's how deep?
If you're in 1,600 feet of water, then ultimately you want to be fishing at, say, 1,500, 1,520. And a little bit of that's guessing, of course. And with current, even using a very small diameter line, your bait always gets swept further up off the bottom.
Okay.
So you're constantly having to adjust and refine the bottom and then bring your rig back up to the optimum depth off the bottom. Of course, the amount of current, and if you've got current underneath, a thermocline or whatnot, all those things play into this. And so sometimes it's quite challenging.
Yeah. And how did you learn it? Are you self-taught, or did you see somebody else doing it? Did you do it in Florida, or?
No, we're self-taught. Okay. And we probably tried it 8, 10, a dozen times before we caught our first fish.
That's patience. So you have charters that go for this? That like it?
I have some charters that are quite diligent. They love doing it. They request to do it repeatedly. And then you have other people that they try it for 1 hour or even 30 minutes and they just can't stand it anymore. And they say, we have to do something else.
Yeah. And then, of course, you got so many options. I mean, you kind of can understand a little bit with yellowfins and blackfins and mahi, dolphin everywhere.
If you are looking for a big prize, if you are looking for a trophy, it requires more effort.
Yeah. What's your biggest swordfish so far?
So our biggest fish is a little over 400 pounds.
Okay.
And we've lost a handful of fish that were quite a bit big.
So now, how about the fight when you actually hook the fish? What do they fight like?
If you can imagine a cross between a blue marlin and a giant grouper,
like
you don't know what that fish is going to do. I tell people all the time, a blue marlin is fairly predictable. You might not think they are, but it's all fear and flight.
Yeah.
A swordfish is mean. They don't wear out. They don't get winded like a marlin. They never come rolling up dead. So that fish, as soon as he realizes the boat's there, he gets mad. So it's not a fear or flight thing. It is quite an adversarial relationship between you and that fish.
So will they jump?
They will jump just like a marlin will. The biggest difference is for a large fish, anytime during the fight, he could do things that are very unpredictable because that fish never loses sight of something's got me, something's agitating me, and I want to get it too.
So when you reach down to grab them, I mean, they do have a sword. It's different than a marlinbill, which is round. It's literally a blade.
That's why they call them broadbill swordfish, because the bill is broad, just like a broadsword. Very rarely do we reach out and grab one. If you have a small fish that you intend to release, you would. One of the peculiarities of sword fishing is the stamina of the fish. Wearing that fish out to the point where you can boat that fish, because you're not trying to release it. You're not trying to get close enough to touch the leader and then it doesn't matter. You're trying to kill this fish because they're good to eat. So most of the time you end up having to try to harpoon a big fish. So trying to grab the bill is the last thing you're worried about. You're just trying to get a clear harpoon shot so that you're able to start to wear that fish out.
And you got to fight the fish up from 1,500 feet down. It's not like he's 100 feet.
Well, and that's another thing, Marty, is you don't always know what you've got on the end of the line or how big that fish is. Most often the sign that it's a big fish is that rod tip goes slack and that fish starts charging for the surface.
Okay.
And so at that point, you're just trying to keep your line tight. So if you have a small fish, quite often it'll keep tension on the rod until you bring it all the way to the surface. But if you have a big fish, somewhere 400 or 500 foot from the surface, that thing usually comes charging up and starts jumping. And sometimes it's way out in the distance. You could miss it because your line's still going straight down.
And it's out there jumping.
Yeah.
So this is fascinating stuff to me. Really bucket list thing in my list. Bucket list item on my list. I've never caught a swordfish. Now, one last thing. Good to eat, served around the world. Give me your, as a professional waterman, how do you like it? There's some different names of them or something, or different areas that are better than others, but really good.
So the meat's usually a more of an opaque, tan looking flesh, and it's really good. To me, it's way better than a piece of tuna or a piece of wahoo.
Okay.
But they can develop an orange color. And usually that orange color is developed from them eating krill. And when that happens, it helps flavor the meat a little bit different. And they're called pumpkins when that meat gets orange like that. So it's highly desirable.
Okay. Good to know. Steve, that is all really good stuff. Now, tell us about your upcoming season. Just get kicked off. What are you fishing for to start out?
So we are currently in operation. We've had a few charters so far, just a few wreck trips and some inshore, nearshore trips. Sea bass, bluefish, triggerfish, stuff like that. We do have some offshore Gulf Stream trips coming up at the end of the month. And I know my crew is really looking forward to that.
Yeah.
So some of those trips hopefully will be sword fishing trips.
Yes.
Repeat.
You like it. You actually love it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I get very excited about those trips.
Yeah. What's your best day? I've seen multiple fish on some of your pictures.
We've had days with 4 fish, and we've had some days where we've had 2 or 3 big fish or bigger fish.
Exciting, I bet, when you pull him in over the side. That goes nuts.
Well, it's very exciting, and you have to be very careful.
Awesome. Sword on it.
These fish, like I said, these fish are mean fish. They are not fear and flight. And once they realize that something else is there, they'll quite honestly try to attack it. So, the boat, you don't want to be, and the fish is all muscle. So they just have a tremendous amount of stamina, and it takes a lot to subdue them.
Well, that's all fascinating to me. That's a gold star fishing report. We got to save that one. If folks wanted to come down and fish with you on the Dream Girl, what's the best way for them to contact you?
Oh, they can either call me via phone. They can find us at dreamgirlfishing.com.
Okay. All right. Well, Steve, I have really enjoyed it. Anything else? Any other ground you want to cover?
I think you've covered most of it, but it is just a very exciting fishery, and I would love to see more people become involved with it.
Yeah, because technically, I don't know, other than Jesse up in Hatteras, which does it a little bit, she mostly goes to the Keys. To Jesse Anderson, the Carolina Girls, longtime sponsor of ours, but you're pretty much one of the few that's doing it successfully. Correct?
We love it. We've put a lot of effort into it.
I see the people Rudy Inlet doing it and doing well at it, and I see some people in Moorhead doing it. But in this stretch of coast, I think you're the number one game in town.
Well, we certainly love doing it, and I'd also like to note that depending on the area you go to, that the fishing can be a little different. So
yeah, okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for coming and seeing us this afternoon. Steve Wilson, Dream Girl Charters, and we'll call that a wrap.
Thank you, Marty.
Real. That's the first word that comes to mind when I think about Outland Seafood in Mans Harbor. Yeah, they're the first and last place you see coming to and leaving the Outer Banks on Highway 64 in Dare County, but they're also real when it comes to fresh local seafood. Troy Outland, real. Curtis and Josh, real. The indoor crab shedders, real. Stop by and see for yourself right next to White Shopping Center and check them out on social media. Outland Seafood in Mans Harbor, real.
Marty Brill, and I am still in Ocracoke. We are having a lot of fun and talking to some of the local watermen, business owners, and the guy we have in the studio now is Jeremy Reynolds. Jeremy and I share in common that we both own or have owned a tackle shop with all of its challenges. Hello, Jeremy, and it's glad to finally meet you because I feel like I've heard all about you.
Hey, Marty, nice to meet you.
Yeah, now you came down from Virginia, correct?
That's correct.
What in the heck were you thinking when you bought a tackle shop?
We thought it would be fun, so.
You know what? When I had my tackle shop, you know what? It was a hunting and fishing store. You know what I really loved doing? and fishing. That came to an end. Hunting and fishing short. When's the last time you picked up a fishing pole?
Last night.
Oh, well, good. You're going to break the mold probably, because that business is a full-time business, and you was tackle shop in Ocracoke as well. For years, I've had a working relationship with Alan and Melissa when they had it, and now I've already heard about you. And so you came down from Virginia and you bought a tackle shop. How long? 15 months, would you say?
Yes, sir. About 15 months ago.
How's it gone so far? You're coming out of the winter. A long winter, hasn't it?
It was a long winter. Yeah, we're so excited to start the season.
Yeah,
it's picking up and it's going pretty well now.
One of the things I noticed, my shop was on the highway in Nags Head. And, back when I was a turnboat captain, I was like, I wish these people would just, the crowds would be, I can't wait till Labor Day where everyone, it eases off and people go home. And I had a tackle shop standing out there on the highway. I went up and stopped and don't leave. Please don't leave, because the winters are really long.
Right. Absolutely.
So at your tackle shop, what have been some of the things that you've really enjoyed? What are the things that you could say would be your strong points at Tradewinds?
So I really got into fishing 7 or 8 years ago, and really just enjoy the drive to go out there and catch something and bring it home to eat, or just something notable, a memory, and seeing new people come in excited to go fishing and wanting to catch the fish that they keep seeing on the internet.
Yeah.
It's really rewarding to be able to send them out in the morning or the afternoon and see them the next day, and they bring me a picture and look what we caught, and that's definitely a big positive.
Did you know, like when you were looking at a tackle shop or what you wanted to do, did you realize that from Ocracoke up to about Nags Head is really the epicenter of the best surf fishing in the world? Considered, most people would say that is absolutely the case. Did you know that? I mean, had you been here before?
I did. Yeah. We vacationed. My family's vacationed for 15 to 20 years on the Outer Banks. We went all over from way down to Hatteras and camping or staying in Airbnbs. We had only recently made it to Ocracoke. We hadn't made it as far south as Ocracoke until about 2021, 2022. And there, it's like you get that ferry ride over, and it's a whole nother world.
Yeah, I just took the ferry ride Swan Quarter today, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I haven't done that in a long. On our podcast this week, we've been talking about the difference between a locally owned tackle shop and the big box stores or catalogs. And the things that I think people are most surprised to find out when they come into a store like Tradewinds is that you are competitively priced, correct?
That's correct.
I mean, you're within $1 or $2 of the big box stores, and really your quality is better.
Yeah, that would be an accurate assessment.
Okay.
I'd say we work really hard to keep our prices the same across the board as one of the big box stores.
So forgive me if I share some of my experiences from my days, because it was an eye-opener. I had some really good business people coaching me. Here's another observation I made. When I was charter boat captain and buying a lot of tackle professionally, I'd go in the tackle shop and say, I need a discount. They said, well, we'll give you 10% off. And I'm like, that's it? 10%? And I got in the tackle business. You give away 10% of your first sale. That's 35% of your profit, And all my buddies wanted a deal. Do all your buddies want deals?
Yeah. A lot of people want deals, and the former owner, Mr. Alan Sutton, he would tell them, give them the Alan Sutton deal, which is, they offer on a combo $199. Say, all right, well, it's $220. It goes the opposite direction.
Just to give them $240 plan. That's as much in 40%.
Oh, right on.
Really good. But those were some of the observations I made. And now when I go up and down the bypass and I look at stores that have sales, I really appreciate how much that takes when someone offers a sale. But let's talk a minute about bait. Because a lot of people say, I'm going fishing, I need bait. I'm going to buy frozen mullet, squid, or shrimp from a big box store or elsewhere. But the local tackle shops, especially in that region, a lot of trouble to have unfrozen fresh bait impossible, right?
As much as we possibly can. We try to keep it in there every single day, and it doesn't always work out that way. We've had a string of bad luck this week.
Mm-hmm.
One of our commercial guys that's been out fishing for the mullet that we like to carry, he said he's been through several $100s of gas looking for them, and but we're after them. We're after them to get that fresh bait.
I'm your friend. This is, I know we're on live and talking here, but I'm over on the other side of the sound. I just came across on the ferry, 2.5 hours. The mullet, I have a friend that's a commercial fisherman over there, and he says the ditches in Hyde County, the other portion of Hyde County, the mainland port, full of jumping mullet.
Oh, wow.
Maybe let him know.
Yeah.
So he may want to take a truck and drop in there and throw a cast net.
Yeah,
or
right.
something like that. But the fresh bait, and it applies to offshore fishing. I wrote an article this year in our fishing guide about that. Fresh bait, same day, is really good.
Oh, yeah.
You let it have 24 hours, loses 50% of its catchability, whether it's a ballyhoo to go offshore, mullet, or even a fresh shrimp. Once it's a day old, the rule of thumb is 50% less effective. 2 days old, frozen, last ditch effort maybe, but the work you put in, have bait, put it in the morning that you can sell fresh all day. That's why you go to a local.
Absolutely.
All right, so you do, and you'll do shrimp too. You do a lot of shrimp, I bet, in the summertime.
Yeah, we do. We don't have a great ecosystem here of people catching commercially the shrimp, so that's a little more difficult for us.
Yeah,
we do it when we can.
So jumping mullet would be your best selling bait.
Probably, well, not probably, definitely.
So speaking of that, the bite, you all started getting some big drum already, right?
Yes, sir.
Tell us about that a little bit.
So it's been starting really. I think the ones I heard about were late February.
Mm-hmm.
We had some 47s and 45-inch drum, and now I've heard of I caught a 49-inch, and I heard of another 49-inch I caught off the beach. Back in the Sound, I heard rumor from a boat that one boat caught 13 citations in an afternoon, and a bunch of under 40-inch drum.
And this is why I want your phone number.
All right.
Fishing post. I didn't hear that one, but that's a world-class day of fishing. That's what that is.
Right.
So if you could do any kind of fishing you want, what's your favorite? Are you an offshore guy?
No, nope. I'm not offshore. I do inshore. I like fishing from the boat, but there's something about surf fishing for red drum that is just,
the gold standard.
It is, and I'd say, just throwing bait, catching those drum, followed closely by topwater bite. If I can get them to hit a topwater.
Oh, that would be bluefish, Spanish mackerel, stuff like that. Now back on the Sound side, we don't hear much in Ocracoke, but there's a good fishery back on the other side, on the Sound side of the island.
Yeah.
And I was a big fly fishing dealer. A lot of people like fly fishing in saltwater, and then sinking fly line, and they're like, what? And they're catching flounder on fly line. Do you like to go back in the Sound, do that? I got a follow-up question, but do you enjoy Sound fishing?
So I definitely enjoy Sound fishing. That's where I'll spend a lot of time when it starts to get real busy on the beach. It's pretty hard in the summer months to do really well on some of the beaches. There's a lot of closures, turtle closures, and then a lot of tourism, which is great, but it definitely gets crowded. And which is not the Ocracoke. You're fishing Ocracoke, you probably expect to be, not shoulder to shoulder people, sunscreen and bug spray and that kind of stuff. Back in the Sound, you can get away from people.
Yeah.
You can wade all through there. It's really shallow. The fly fishing, I know it's getting more popular here. I haven't done it. I'm meaning to. I need to.
But I was more of a stealer, but I could never get the hand motion was so unnatural to me. I'm an old castle spinning rod. Fly fishing, it's a motion where everything's kind of rigid in your grip and your hands. So the follow-up question I had for you was, I learned last year, fishing up around Roanoke Island, about a popping. Never knew much about them, but I know that's a really clever choice for puppy drum and trout, is it not?
Absolutely, yeah.
Listeners like what that is how you would rig that up.
So it's a 3-4 inch that has, sometimes they have some rattles to them as well, and then a line that comes off of it, and they're usually weighted so you can cast them a little further. On the bottom, you either put artificial like a gulp or a Z-Man, and it's going to suspend it kind of like it's a bobber, and you pop it a few times and it makes that noise and kind of mimics little bait fish or little bait shrimp like feeding.
I didn't understand.
Yeah,
it lets a predator know something's going on.
Yeah, like they're schooled up or something and making some noise. And so you can do it with an artificial, or you could even put some shrimp on there, maybe a finger mullet. Yeah.
And so far, listeners that are listening and thinking, that sounds like something I'd like to do, to go surf fishing or come in and trade with tackle. So there's a couple of ways of skinning that cat. Most people, a lot of people show up here. And in fact, we were just talking off the air about really intending to go fishing. But you can walk in your tackle shop. People would be surprised how quickly you could rig them up. So a 7.5 foot surf combo, 12-pound test line, basic tackle. This is something you're not going to get in the big box store. You would put it together for them, show them how to use it on the fresh bait. And really, you'd have a reel. If you kept the sand washed out of it, just took a little bit of care that you could use year after year after year for what, $50-$60? Can you rig them up like that?
Yeah. I have one that I've specifically put together. It's an 8-foot surf rod with the line on it already. It comes with 2 rigs, like a pompano rig with the kale hook, a couple of sinkers, comes with the sand spike, and a pack of bait, shrimp or squid, for $59.
Can't be that.
Yeah.
Now, there is a fishing license required if you're 16 or older. I believe that's correct.
That's correct.
I always used to have to remember it. If you're under 16, you don't need a fishing
license. That's right.
So, saltwater fishing license to fish in the surf. You don't have the piers, but listeners, if you're on one of our local piers, no, because you're covered by the blanket license. Do you also do licenses, or do you just send them to the state website? What's the best way to find out about a license?
If people want to do them before they come down, it's online, it's available, but a lot of people will come into the shop and have us help with that because it can be a little cumbersome. So we don't mind getting people their license. We do the hunting and fishing license and vessel registration right there in the shop.
Yeah, you're one-stop shopping.
That's right.
Everything. So Alan used to always, the previous owner, he always told us something that I never knew. He said when he was really taking, and he's like, if you're going down on the beach surf fishing, maybe there was some no-see-ums or some that, you spray down with bug spray, don't get it on your fingers and touch your bait, because the fish would not bite it. I didn't never stop to think about that, but that bug spray is an alien smell to everything below the surface.
Yeah.
It might take deep thinking.
Yeah. You want to be careful with any of the scented stuff, sunscreen, bug spray, even your scented soaps and stuff, that you wash your hands in, all going to get on the bait.
And nowadays, a lot of the bait, also, we talked about all the fresh bait, is synthetic bait is a big deal now too, right?
Right. Yeah. We've got all kinds of like Cure or Gulp and the Z-Man. They come in their own, they're packed in sort of scent, and they seem to work super well to attract fish.
I had one of those little jars and one of those synthetic baits, and I put it in my glove compartment and forgot about it, and it exploded in my glove compartment about 3 months later, and it stuck up for about 6 months. But some of those things, fish bites, they got? There's all kinds of brands.
Oh yeah, fish bites. Yeah, that goes right on the hook. It's not like
fish are good too.
Yeah. When shrimp's not staying, we've had some citation pompano, some nice drum caught on them. Like they pretty well.
So if you're stranded in your boat out in the sound and waiting on the Coast Guard and you're out there for a week, can you eat your fish bites to survive?
They're not the best tasting. They're a little sweet, a little salty, but I wouldn't suggest it.
Oh, wow. Well, I tell you what, Jeremy, it's really good to meet you finally. I'm looking forward to hope you have a great season this year. Tell folks a couple things. Number one, how do they find you on Ocracoke?
Sure. Right as you come into the village, we're going to be on the left-hand side, just past the post office, and right there beside Jason's restaurant.
And then the second thing is, to come down there, may want to talk to you in advance. Or you have a website or contact information that they can use?
Sure. It's tradewindstackle.com. Tradewinds Tackle Shop at gmail.com. And probably the best way to get us is on our Facebook, the Tradewinds Tackle Facebook. Send us a message there.
Well, I personally look forward to striking up a relationship, and like I used to do with Alan, and interrupted him at dinner most nights, and find out what's going on, because you don't have many contacts down here. Well, it's going to be a pleasure in business with you. Appreciate you taking the time to stop by.
Absolutely. Nice to meet you, Marty.
Thank you.
All right, that's going to do it for this edition of The Other Side of Fishing with Captain Marty, all brought to you by Red Drum Tackle in Buxton, the closest ride to the point, and that's Cape Point down in Buxton. Yes, check them out online at reddrumtackle.com. All powered by Wanchese Marina. Yes, 4457 Mill Landing Road in Wanchese, and online at wanchesemarina.com. Don't forget about the landing grill while you're down there and grab yourself a bite to eat. And it's also all powered by the largest repower center in all of Northeast North Carolina. That would be Radcliffe Marine in Bellhaven, and online at radcliffemarine.com. All right, we'll see y'all again very soon. And remember, with Captain Marty, there's always tight lines. Happy fishing, everybody.